Obviously, we're here to speak about Lost Ladies.
Yes.
I loved this film. I thought it was so wonderful. It had such a beautiful kind of charm to it. It's been so well received so far. You must be both be so proud of this movie, but also, I mean, obviously, despite when you work on movies, the intention is always that it does really well. But does it still come as a really pleasant surprise when it is as well received as this has been?
I guess, I think the answer is yes. Well, when I read the script first time, I really loved it. And when Kiran showed me the film, because I wasn't there on set when they were shooting it, I have to say that when I saw the first cut, I was like, wow, they've really made such a wonderful film. And Kiran has got the performances just right, and she's got the tone just right. And but I didn't expect it to be selected as India's entry to the academies. And I mean, I wasn't even, to be honest, thinking about that. And so that has come as a really pleasant surprise. And the film has thereafter been released in Japan, and we've been having screenings. So it seems to be connecting really well with members, and I'm really happy to know that. Yeah.
From my point of view, I would say that, big studios are always encouraged to make big blockbusters with big stars and, big budgets. And almost, I mean, in the era of OTT platforms, small, thoughtful films like these, which are charming, have a big heart, but no big stars in it, are always encouraged to go, sell it to a digital company as an original, that kind of, a thought process. And we were very committed that we loved the film. All of us associated with the film loved the film. We all sort of made it our own, and we were very convinced that we need to take it to the cinemas. And that's what we did. And but this kind of unprecedented love that we are seeing for it, whoever watches it finds something that they resonate with. And this kind of unprecedented love, even we didn't sort of expect. But we were, on our part, very committed to it. Every parent's baby is its favorite baby. So this was our favorite baby.
Yeah, because it manages to be there's comedy in it, of course, there's a kind of sense of adventure, but at the same time it is quite sentimental, and it has it's very relevant, very important themes that it explores. That's quite a difficult balance to get all of that right. What's the secret to it succeeding in this
Well, the secret is Kiran. She's the one who was, had the reins in her hand, and she was the one who was, calibrating the performances. She was the one who was, blocking the scenes. And so I think that this is a balance that I hoped that she would get when she was directing it, and she has done it really beautifully. And I think what Kiran's big strength is that she's a very honest filmmaker. And I find that is such an important aspect of a director, to be honest to what he's narrating, he or she is narrating. And that's something I find Kiran is really, I mean, she's a very honest director. And I think that's one of her big strengths. And because of that, she gets really delicate performances. And because of that, she hits all the right notes in, when she's shooting a scene. Yeah. So I think I'm so glad she got it right. Yeah. But the trick for it was actually, as far as I'm concerned, because when I read the script, I said, I think Kiran's the right director. And I'm so glad my instinct was right, and I'm so glad that she, really the film has bloomed in her hands. Yeah.
If I may add, apart from Kiran being such a nuanced, authentic, filmmaker, another thing that this film has benefited from is Aamir's process. And so Aamir, what they do in Aamir Khan Productions is they screen all the films once you have the edit lock. You screen the films to different sets of audiences.
We have a very robust testing process.
It's a very important testing process. And through that process, what happens with the editing, what you take with that first cut, and before the final cut emerges, you make these little tweaks in post-production that really make that film from very good to that excellent, that excellence
Yeah.
shift happens in the balance in that.
I think the testing process is
I think
is
so.
a very helpful process.
So although
it
he
stood
was,
by me throughout my career.
Yes. So I would say Kiran's brilliance and this process helped us achieve that balance.
Yeah, what sort of stories do you want Aamir Khan Productions to tell? Is there a type of film you're wanting to put out into the world through your production company? A kind of identity to some degree?
No, we don't have any preconceived ideas as to what we want to make. I think when we are looking for material at that time, me and now Aparna, who's heading the company, are very open about what genre of film it could be. It could be any genre. The film should speak to us. The story should speak to us. It should excite, it should excite me as an audience first when I'm reading it. And then that excitement that I feel is what makes me want to make the film. And I'm hoping that excitement which I felt through the script actually gets translated onto screen. So it starts from there. It starts from one person's excitement, I guess, from the script.
Yeah. The last sort of two sort of Indian films I've seen are Lost Ladies and also Girls Will Be Girls, which also was a very kind of empowering kind of story about sexuality and a woman's kind of autonomy. And this film kind of is very empowering as well. How important is it to use cinema and the art form to tell stories like this that have these kind of very powerful messages to them?
I think it's fairly important to me. A lot of my work, if you noticed, is picks up a lot of themes. Though I have to confess that I don't go around looking for socially relevant stories to make. No, I am fully aware that my fundamental responsibility as an entertainer is to entertain. When people are coming to a cinema hall, they aren't coming for a lecture on sociology. I know they're coming for a good time. But I feel along with that, if your script, which is otherwise, structurally really good and it pops in various ways, but it was also talking about themes which are important to us as people, as human beings, then then I love it that much more. And as creative people, whether it's painters, poets, songwriters, filmmakers, actors, dancers, we're all creative people. So while our fundamental responsibility is to entertain, there is another thing that we can do, and that is build social fabric of a society, because it is the creative people who actually affect how you feel about things, So I think that's something that I'd like to be aware of when I'm doing work.
We spoke obviously about Kiran's wonderful direction here, but also, Nitanshi and Pratibha bring so much humanity and life, nuance to the kind of two lead roles. Can you just talk a little bit about their wonderful performances and the casting process and finding those two lead actresses?
Well, the casting process was a very important process, like it is for every film. And Kiran was really, went deep into that process. She had a great casting director with her. And in fact, one of the castings that we had a bit of discussion was, I was very keen to play the role of Manohar, the cop. And I even tested for it. And it was quite a good test, I think, even if I say so myself. Both Kiran and I liked it. But then we decided that we shouldn't go with me as the character, because with me being in the film, there would be a huge imbalance in the casting. And so that process was an exciting process where we were, both the girls and Sparsh for that matter are doing their first feature film. Ravi, of course, is a very experienced actor. So it's a mix of, couple of experienced actors with mostly new actors. And I think that
our company had worked with couple of them in a web
on a
series.
show, yeah.
On a
Sparsh
web series.
had done Jamtara was your
Jamtara,
show?
yeah.
So Sparsh had done a show called Jamtara, which I had seen him and I really liked him in. And so I think Kiran really got the casting bang on. Even the smaller characters, like the guy who's at the tea stall wanting chutney. You remember him as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So she's been that.
He poured way too much time.
Yes. And if he had played the cop, you would not get the arc of the cop. you would already know that
I'm not that bad an actor.
No, you would already know that he is going to be nice in the end. You know, you would.
I'm not so sure about that also. I think I would have made you believe that I'm not such a nice guy. But we felt that the casting would be, it would become, you know, I'm too big a star in India for it to not have an effect. So we didn't want to take any chances and, you know, wanted to keep it pure.
Yeah. But you're not tempted with a tiny cameo? You know, like Alfred Hitchcock used to just appear in all of his movies? Just walking in the background?
Yeah, no, I've never had that fascination. No.
But I mean, I wanted to ask too, I mean, obviously we mentioned that this is the Indian entry to the Oscars next year. What's, just from someone who doesn't actually know too much about that, what's the kind of process for that? And how does a nation decide what film to put forward? And why do you think Lost Ladies has been the pick this year?
Well, in India, we have what is called the Film Federation of India, which is the largest body association in the film industry. And almost every department is affiliated to the Film Federation of India. Not almost, I think every department is affiliated to that. And so in India, what we do is the Film Federation of India appoints a committee of about 20 or 25 people, if I'm not mistaken. And these people all have to be people who won a national award previously. So they have to be of a certain caliber of filmmaking and acting or, you know, whichever department they're in. So I think then these 20-25 people who are previous award winners at the national awards, that's the group that really discusses, because you have to remember there are about 1,000 films made in India. So to get selected from India is probably tougher. Though of course the next step is also equally tough. But getting selected from India is a tough one because there are a number of really good films being made every year. And I suppose the committee would have a tough time
And there were
selecting.
some front runners in some other languages this year
Sure,
as well.
it's not just Hindi.
It's not just
So
Hindi,
it's-
Malayalam.
So yeah. And we have a very robust film industry in different languages in India. So when you get selected from India, you're actually getting selected from across the languages and across almost 1,000 films that are made every year. And then of course when you do get selected as India's entry, I think probably the toughest category at the academy is the foreign language. I would think, because you're competing with the best from every country. So there are about 85 films, and they're all really good films. You know, each one of them is representing the country, and so it's a tough one.
Well, this is a worthy contender, I think.
Well,
yeah.
Let's hope.
Obviously, the film's been submitted for BAFTA as well, so you're kind of in the process of travelling around the world of it. Is that one of the joys, as two people involved in the kind of film industry, of sharing films with the world? Because I always think the world becomes a much smaller place when you see films from different parts of the world and parts of the globe, because you realise we have so much shared emotions and shared
So much in
experiences.
common, actually.
No, totally.
In fact, yeah, that is certainly one of the joys, is to travel with the film and then see the reaction of audiences from different cultures. That's very exciting. Yeah, also I think, what is the part of your question? I slightly forgot that.
It was just asking about, is that one of the great joys of being in film, is sharing?
Yeah. So that is one of the joys. And I want to add to that. I think that now, you know, with OTT platforms coming in, all of us are now much more open to watching content from different languages. I mean, I myself have seen so many different, I've seen Korean stuff,
Korean,
I've seen
Spanish.
Spanish things. Earlier, I didn't have the access to that as well.
Even in India, I mean, we have 27, 30 different languages.
Yeah,
We
you
used
know, I
to
can
only
now,
not...
I watch Tamil films,
Yeah.
I watch Malayalam films. Earlier, that just wasn't available to me. So I think with OTT platforms coming in, as you said, the world has become a smaller
And
place.
COVID.
And COVID. So you, in that time, people were just sitting at home and watching content, and then you started watching content from other countries and different languages. And when you do that, you suddenly realize that, wait a minute, they may be speaking a different language, but as human beings, at the end of the day, we're very similar, all of us.
And I think I'd like to, you know, now we've been doing this for over a month and a half. What I observe is respect. You know, India used to always be typecast as a certain stereotype, song and dance, melodrama, a different, people had a certain impression about how films are made in India, which are categorized as Bollywood. I mean, we like to call it the Indian film industry
Or Hindi cinema.
Hindi cinema. But, you know, Bollywood is like
I
a
don't like the word
stereotype
Bollywood.
bucket, you know. And when you look at films like Lost Ladies, we are very proud that it showcases a story that is quintessentially Indian, but which is able to resonate with so many different cultures. And even the craft of filmmaking is right up there. Be it production design, be it cinematography, be it the filmmaking, be the tonality of the film, be it the performances, the music, it's on point. So the fact that in India we are able to produce these kind of films
High
that are
quality.
high quality. So I think to be able to showcase that to the world itself is a great privilege and joy.
Yeah, because I've been doing this job for 14 years, but it's only really been the last 2 or 3 years I've been granted opportunities like the one today to meet wonderful actors and filmmakers from India. And it's, just how big a role has streaming changed? And is it, as two people very much involved in the creation of films, does it feel like quite an exciting time for content in India because of the global accessibility that comes with the likes of Netflix?
I think more than that, I would say that, you see, Indian cinema has been having its own growth irrespective of OTT platforms.
Yes.
It's been having its own growth over the last, I mean, I've been working in the Indian film industry since 1988, which is almost, I don't know, 35 years or something. So I've seen that, you know, what was, as Jyoti was earlier saying, that, you know, Indian films were all categorized as one kind of film. But that's not how it is. And over the last 25 years, I've seen that also change dramatically. I think younger filmmakers with newer voices have come in, and writers, directors, actors as well, who have their own voices, which are quite different from what at one time mainstream Indian cinema was. So today, mainstream Indian cinema has a new definition, I believe. It is much more welcoming of content which otherwise would have earlier not even seen the day of light, you know, the light of day rather, wouldn't have seen the light of day. But
You're right.
But now you find that, you know, very unusual films. For example, even Stree, at one time it would not have been considered a, but now it's done massive business. Horror comedy. You know, horror comedy was not a genre that Indians ever enjoyed, but they've evolved to that. And so Indian cinema is changing, Indian audiences are changing. And today, it's very difficult to categorize it as this is what Indian cinema is. It's so varied that
And there's
I would
no one
hesitate
size.
to...
There's no one size fits all.
Yeah, I would hesitate to put it in any box.
And it is, I think, for the right film, I think it's not like all films will travel. So he said we make thousands of films. All 1,000 will not resonate with a global audience. It's the awareness and then the ability to know what can travel and then put your mind behind it is how we can take our cinema to audiences around the world. For example, now Lost Ladies is currently playing in the theatres in Japan, and it has smashed previous records, although Japan is a small market for us, of big star cast, you know, films. And it's now, I think, the second highest grossing
Indian film.
Indian film in Japan, you know. So I think that speaks for something.
Yeah.
So the concept is resonating, the satire is translating, the people are getting the jokes as well as they're getting the message and the punch. So I hope this is the beginning of, you know, a new era for Indian cinema globally.
And of course, the thing that's brought us all here today is this movie, but it's just we all just have a shared love for storytelling, isn't it? That's the kind of what's put us all in this room. So what can you take us back to what first ignited the passion in cinema for both of you?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh. You know, I come from a film family. My father was a producer and my uncle was a leading film director and producer of his time. So I kind of grew up with films being made around me. But I got interested in films when I was about 16, I think. And what sparked it for me was a friend of mine who was my classmate wanted to make a short film. because he was interested in filmmaking and that's what he wanted to do. I'm talking of Aditya Bhattacharya, Basuda's son. He was in class with me.
Wow.
So he made this short film and he requested me to help him out. He said, can you act in it? I also need a production person. I also need a spot boy. So basically, Aditya and I, it was like a student film. So the two of us got together and we did what we could to put that story onto film. The experience of that 1 month of trying to tell a story, of struggling with the challenges that come your way when you're trying to tell the story, and the whole process was so enriching for me that's when I decided that this is the world I want to live in, this is the world I want to be in, this is my life, storytelling, movies. So I was about 16 when I kind of discovered it.
For me, it was, you know, in the 90s, I used to be fascinated with adverts and jingles. You know, we used to have lovely content in India. There was a spurt of
Really
ad
good ad
filmmaking,
films,
you know,
yeah.
like VIP, taking home these memories in a VIP, you know, beautiful ads which would evocate some emotion. You know, we used to have brilliant ads. And television was new at that time. So watching that, you know, watching movies, watching content, even these adverts, that whole concept fascinated me. So I started my career with advertising. I then moved on. I was with J. Water Thompson India for 3 years.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
I launched De Beers and you know, brands like that in India, and then I moved to television for a couple of years before, you know, sticking to film. So I would say almost 3 decades in film, which is my first love. But I came in through the love of adverts.
Well, that's storytelling too.
Do you still feel 16 when you make movies now? You know, that kind of initial passion?
I think I'm stuck at 18 or thereabouts, not 16. It's 2 years more than that.
It's a big difference.
But you know, I still, it's crazy that you're asking this question, but in my head, I still feel I'm 18 or 19. And when I look at people, I'm like, oh, this is a 50-year-old person. I should get up, you know, I should say hello, sir, and all of that. But then I realize I'm older than him, you know. He's calling me sir. So, so you know, over the years, but in my head, I'm still someone who's 18, and that's how I think. And
but without
until I look in the mirror.
But without childlike enthusiasm, you can never get to this kind of excellence. I think you need to enjoy the journey.
It's a learning every day.
Yes.
In films, every day you learn something. And you know, I read a book by Elia Kazan, and he put it really well. He says in the book that he was giving a lecture to some film students, and he spoke about cinema and, you know, all the various things that he put forward. And he said that, you know, you guys must be thinking that since I know so much about cinema, how come I still make crap films? And he said, the answer to that is, he said, that's the charm of it. And he put it so beautifully. That's the charm of it. You may have spent 30 years in this business and you may have learned so much, but you could still go wrong. Yeah. And that's the charm of it.
No,
you know?
two films' journey is similar.
It's similar.
Even if you try to get, you know, no two films' process is the same. Although generically everybody knows what the process is. But it's no two films'
Every
journey.
film has its own journey.
Has its own
Absolutely
journey.
Right.
And its own destiny, you know.
So I think I've just got time for one more question, but obviously I know you both have so many fingers in so many pies when it comes to films. Is there anything else you're working on at the moment that you're especially kind of excited about, that's kind of in the works at the moment?
Well, I have 5 films under production right now. One of them I'm acting in. And I think all of these 5 stories are really lovely stories. I get attracted to stories, you know, good stories which have something to say and which connect with you emotionally. So I'm quite excited about all of these films.
I, you know, have my usual blockbusters, but I'm going to talk about a Marathi film that, you know, is going to...
You were telling me about that.
Yeah, which is going to come out in January. And it's actually a 110-year-old play. So it's a regional language play. It's called Natya Sangeet, which is converted. So it's a musical, not the 5-6 songs, but it's like 14-15 songs. It's a period film. And Marathi movies typically do not have these kind of budgets. But again, it goes back to the vision that we want to democratize storytelling. First of all,
And you want to back what you believe.
and make it language agnostic. Even if it's in Marathi, the visual, the music has to be compelling enough for Aamir to watch it, although he may not be,
Though I know Marathi.
you know,
But people who don't know Marathi.
Aamir doesn't watch movies. So it
Yeah,
should compel him to watch movie, you know.
I'm known for my...
So we want, so this movie is something that we hope can resonate with.
Sounds good, yeah.
And it's culturally it's like taking dead culture that is dead and forgotten and contemporarizing it. The language used to be difficult to understand. So we've simplified the language so that youth of today
Can connect with it.
can connect with it.
That's an exciting one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So it comes out in January, you said?
January.
And it's not one of your big blockbuster ones. It's a very film with a heart.
Film with a heart.
Chalo, good.
Just like Lost Ladies. Cool. Well, thank you so much, guys. Much appreciated.
Thank
It's
you,
lovely to
Steve.
speak to you
Thank
both.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having
Cheers.
us.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your stay here. Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!
Hey,